She only wanted to fit in. A young black girl, full of dreams, walking into school with a smile that hid the weight of being different. But that day, everything shattered. Laughter turned to whispers, whispers to cruelty, until hands grabbed her and a burning liquid poured over her hair. The sting of bleach, the sting of hatred, it was more than an attack on her appearance. It was an attack on her very identity, but what those bullies didn't know was that she carried a strength far greater than they could ever imagine. Beneath the pain, behind the tears, was a fire ready to rise. And when it did, their world would never be the same. This isn't just one girl's story. It's a mirror reflecting the ugly face of racism and the power that comes when courage refuses to bow. What happened next will shock you, inspire you, and leave you questioning how far society has truly come. So stay with me, because you don't want to miss this. And if stories like this matter to you, comment, like, and subscribe so more voices can be heard and more truths can be told. Her name was Aaliyah. At just 14, she carried the kind of light that filled a room, quick to laugh, quicker to dream. She loved sketching in the margins of her notebooks, braiding her hair on Sunday nights while humming old songs her grandmother used to sing. At school, she wasn't the most popular, but she was kind, always helping others, always trying to blend in, even when the world reminded her she was different. For Aaliyah, mornings started with the same ritual, the smell of her mom's coffee drifting through the kitchen, the squeak of sneakers on the wooden floor, the careful glance in the mirror before heading out. Her hair, thick, coiled, and beautiful, was more than just hair to her. It was history, identity, pride. She never said it out loud, but deep down, she knew it made her a target too. School was supposed to be a safe place, a stepping stone to the dreams she whispered to her best friend late at night. She wanted to be an artist, maybe even a teacher. She wanted to prove that she could rise above the small-town whispers, the sideways looks, the subtle comments that carried sharp edges. Most days she brushed it off. Most days she smiled, but not everyone saw Aaliyah's light as something to cherish. Some saw it as something to break. The bullies watched her in the hallways, eyes sharp, voices low, plotting in shadows where teachers couldn't hear. And though Aaliyah sensed it, the glances, the sudden silence when she walked past, she never imagined how far their cruelty would go. On that morning, nothing seemed out of the ordinary. The bus was late, the chatter in the cafeteria loud, the weight of books heavy in her arms. But just beneath the surface, something was shifting. What awaited her that day was not just another round of teasing or whispers. It was something darker, something that would test every ounce of strength she didn't yet know she had. And as Aaliyah took her seat in class, unaware of the storm gathering around her, the question lingered. How do you prepare for a moment that will try to erase who you are? The signs had been there all along, small but sharp like glass hidden in the grass. The way the whispers grew louder when Aaliyah walked by. The snickers when she opened her lunchbox filled with her grandmother's recipes. The cruel jokes about her hair, how it was too wild, too different. She tried to laugh it off, to keep walking, to remind herself that dreams were bigger than ignorance. But sometimes, no matter how strong you are, cruelty finds a way to break through the armor. That week, the bullies' taunts sharpened. One girl tugged at Aaliyah's braid in the hallway, yanking so hard her scalp burned. Another boy muttered, just loud enough for others to hear, that bleach could fix her hair. The laughter that followed echoed longer than the words themselves. Aaliyah clenched her fists but said nothing. She thought silence would keep her safe. She thought ignoring them would make them lose interest. But silence wasn't protection. It was fuel. One afternoon, as the final bell rang, Aaliyah lingered behind, gathering her books slowly. She didn't see them waiting near the lockers, their eyes glinting with cruel anticipation. She didn't notice how they closed the distance, how they blocked her path, how one of them carried a bottle hidden in a backpack. She only felt the sudden weight of hands shoving her, the sharp laughter cutting through the empty hallway. Her heart raced. She wanted to scream, but fear tangled her voice. "What's wrong with your hair?" one sneered. "Maybe we should clean it for you." The cap twisted open with a snap, the acrid smell of chemicals filling the air. Aaliyah's breath caught. She knew what it was before the first drop even touched her. Time slowed. She could feel her scalp sting, her vision blur with tears, the sound of liquid splashing like thunder in her ears. It wasn't just the bleach. It was humiliation. It was centuries of cruelty funneled into one cruel act. She stumbled, clutching her head, the burning ache searing through her body. For a moment, the hallway spun, and all she could hear was their laughter. Laughter at her pain. Laughter at her identity. Laughter meant to erase her. But beneath the sting and humiliation, something else stirred. A memory. Her father's voice telling her that strength wasn't about fists, but about spirit. Her instructor's words during karate practice, reminding her that discipline was the power to rise when others wanted you to fall. Her tears blurred into fire. She stood, shaky but unbroken, her breath sharp as a blade. The bullies didn't see it yet, but something inside Aaliyah had shifted. The victim they wanted to leave, shattered in the hallway, was no longer standing in front of them, and what happened next would be the moment that turned their cruelty into fear. The sting of bleach still burned her scalp, the chemical bite seeping into every thought. Aaliyah's knees buckled, her hands trembling, the world spinning under the weight of humiliation. The bullies circled, drunk on power, their laughter ricocheting through the empty hallway like knives. For them this was victory, a cruel game played at her expense. But in the middle of the haze, something shifted. Aaliyah's breath steadied, her training flickering like a flame in the dark. Every kata, every strike, every lesson her instructor drilled into her came flooding back. Control your fear. Turn it into strength. She rose, slow at first, then taller, firmer, her eyes no longer wet with shame but blazing with resolve. The laughter faltered. They hadn't expected this. She was supposed to stay down, supposed to crumble. The first one lunged forward, a sneer on her face, shoving Aaliyah's shoulder. Without hesitation, Aaliyah stepped aside, her body moving with precision. The bully stumbled, surprised, as Aaliyah planted her stance, solid, unshakable. Another tried to grab her arm. In one swift motion, Aaliyah twisted free, redirecting the force, sending the bully crashing into the lockers with a hollow metallic clang. Gasps replaced laughter. What had been a game was suddenly spiraling out of their control. Her heart pounded, but not with fear, with focus. Every strike, every block wasn't just self-defense. It was years of pain, of being made to feel less than, channeled into a fire she could no longer contain. She didn't strike to hurt. She struck to stand, to say without words, "You cannot erase me." The bleach still dripped from her hair, streaking the tiled floor like evidence of cruelty. Yet Aaliyah stood taller, stronger, each move a declaration. One by one, the bullies stumbled back, their confidence cracking under the weight of the very strength they tried to bury. By the time the last one retreated, clutching a bruised pride more than any physical wound, the hallway was silent. Silent except for Aaliyah's steady breath. She looked at the puddle of bleach at her feet, at the strands of hair that would never be the same, and she realized this moment wasn't just about a fight in a hallway. It was about every whisper, every shove, every reminder that she was different. And now, she had shown them that different was powerful. But even as her body trembled with adrenaline, a heavier question loomed. What would happen when the adults arrived? Would they see the truth? Or would they see only a black girl standing in the aftermath of a fight? The hallway smelled of chemicals and fear. Teachers rushed in, their footsteps echoing against the lockers, faces frozen at the sight. A puddle of bleach, broken pride scattered on the floor, and Aaliyah, standing tall, trembling, but unbroken. The bullies scrambled with excuses, voices tripping over lies, pointing fingers everywhere but themselves. And yet, all eyes turned to her. Not to the pain etched into her scalp, not to the humiliation dripping with every strand of her hair, but to the image they chose to see, a black girl standing in the aftermath of a fight. In that split second, Aaliyah felt the weight of history pressing down, the knowledge that sometimes the world didn't care why. It only cared who. Questions flew, accusations hung heavy, but Aaliyah didn't shrink. She lifted her chin, her voice steady though her hand still shook. "They tried to erase me," she said quietly, "but I'm still here." Those words didn't erase the sting. They didn't undo the trauma. But they became a marker, a line she had drawn between who she was before and who she would be after. The days that followed were complicated. Some rallied to her side. Classmates who had once stayed silent now whispered apologies. Teachers who hadn't noticed before suddenly paid attention. But others chose denial. Because this wasn't just about bleach in her hair. It was about centuries of cruelty aimed at making black children feel smaller, weaker, less worthy. It was about the systems that too often protected the aggressor while questioning the victim. It was about the silence that allows racism to breathe. Maya healed, but scars remained, on her scalp, in her heart, and in the way she now looked at the world. Yet those scars became fuel. Every time she walked into a room, every time she tied her belt in karate practice, every time she looked in the mirror at the hair that still grew strong, she remembered. Survival itself was defiance. And here's the truth. Maya's story isn't rare. Maybe the details change, maybe the setting shifts, but the cruelty is familiar. Too familiar. It's the story of children bullied for the color of their skin, of people targeted for simply existing, of generations fighting battles they never asked for. So the question becomes, how many more Mayas must there be before we learn? How many more times must hate try to strip someone's identity before we finally decide enough is enough? Her strength that day was not just for her. It was a reminder, for all of us, that racism doesn't disappear when ignored. It grows. And it only ends when we confront it, expose it, and refuse to let it define the future. Maya's story is one of pain, yes, but it is also one of resilience, courage, and truth. And now it's in your hands. Will you let it be just another video you watched and scrolled past? Or will you carry it forward, share it, and speak the uncomfortable truths that too many still try to silence? Because silence protects the bullies, but voices, your voice, can protect the Mayas of tomorrow. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share it so more people hear what happened. And ask yourself, when the next Maya stands in that hallway, will she stand alone? Or will the world finally stand with her?